So I've been talking to you on, I hope you could hear me at least. I'm not really sure if you could hear me or if you just couldn't see me, but I had the, anyway, I'm live. So welcome aboard, everybody. And I was just talking about that I know is on Spreaker, so I'm not going to repeat the whole thing. Just talking about our teams and what the heck happened yesterday because I go into this standings. I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's see if I can. Okay, I think I can. I think this is my screen that has our leagues, and I can show you where I finished here on this league, which is I was supposed to be in second place, but I couldn't believe what I was seeing yesterday because I was in first place in a tie for first place, and all of a sudden I finished fifth place, and the guy Anthony Perry that's right above me, I couldn't believe yesterday that he gained like 9.5 points in 1 week. I was like trying to scour like what the heck happened? How is this possible? And so then I'm sure that this will all be fixed. I'm not going to dog on anybody in particular because this is obviously a problem in this RT sports because I have labor in here, I have our combined league. We were 20 points ahead in our combined league. This one. Look at where we are, me and Lenny. Second place. It's not even possible that this guy could have Rick could have gained like that many points. There's just no way. We were ahead by like 10 or 15 at least. And anyway, so I was going to talk about this stuff like what happened, but it just seems like I can't really go there for I will talk about Tout Wars for a second. Here's the standings for Tout Wars. Ian and Ariel Cohen, Ariel, that's how you pronounce his name. They tied for first and I came in second, but really technically I'm third because they tied for first. So my pitching was it's so important. The pitching is the most important aspect of this league, no doubt about it. You get points every inning that your pitcher stays out there, even if he stinks. It's beneficial. So I had Denelson Lamet come out of the game in 3 2/3 innings. He got like 5 or 6 points that day. Aaron Nola yesterday comes out after 3 innings. Dylan Bundy didn't even pitch because he cut his finger. Andrew Haney just shit the bed on me too. And everybody was just a huge disappointment. Yesterday, I was praying for Bauer, but of course, that didn't happen because the Reds won on Friday night. And then, what's up, Nola? Nola, supposed to be my best pitcher of the week. He gets 5 points yesterday, and it was just bad. Also, look at this. Jorge Soler went on the injured list on Monday or Friday, whichever day I changed the roster. And I have Justin Turner on the bench who hit 2 home runs all season until Friday when he was on my bench and hit 2 more home runs. So it was just like how, if anything could go, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm not trying to complain. I was super excited from the beginning this year, and I feel like there's a lot of positive to take out of this season. I love the fact that all these teams are going to the playoffs. We're doing a draft right now that you can't see. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Or actually, I'll share the screen of the draft. Let's do that. Here's this one that we're doing. We have a postseason league that we're doing now, and I love it so much because, I mean, it makes even better for postseason leagues because all of these teams that are in the postseason, so there's more players to choose from. We only have 11 teams in this league, so I feel like the smaller the better because you can have a better team. We had to start the draft over one time, and this playoffs, they start tomorrow, so we need to pick things up. It's your turn. Polanco sucks, which is the shaman. My team consists of Bauer and Bieber so far. I felt like I would go pitching heavy. I don't really know if that's going to work, nor do I know if that's even a good idea. But I feel like a lot of times the players, the hitters, like the first postseason league that we were in, the name Kiki Hernandez pops into my head because he had been really good the year before in the playoffs. And I was like, ooh, it's a score. It's such a great pick for the playoffs. He hits like 450 in the playoffs. He stunk that year. So I'm not sure. That's not the only hitter that's done that. And I think there's a lot of sleeper hitters. Like, that's just my opinion. I think there's a lot of sleeper bullpen guys, maybe. But I feel like it's really important to get some really strong starting pitching, and I definitely did that with Bauer and Bieber. The first draft that we did, that we actually erased and started over, I felt horrible because I was deciding between Bauer and Bieber. And let's just face it, Trevor Bauer had one of the best seasons ever. And I mean, for me, it's really satisfying. I kind of feel like I liked him before anybody, and I liked him more than anybody, and I totally saw the talent before anybody was paying attention, and people just looked at me and thought I was crazy. But now I really think that people are starting to really get everything that is Trevor Bauer. Like, he was picked on when he was young. He doesn't care. He has grit totally, and he doesn't care what you think of him. He will say what he feels, and people are starting to really like him. Although, think about how it must have felt to be Trevor Bauer, like, just a couple years ago when people would like give him crap because he would talk about the Astros cheating and saying stuff like, there's no possible way that your spin rate can go from this to this just because now you're a Houston Astro. No. He says, I've been studying spin rate for my entire career, and it doesn't just do that. So there's ways to get the spin rate up, and it's using substances on your hands. And he would go into like the recipe that they were using, that not just them, but frankly, all the teams in baseball were using, I think. Or if they're not using substances, they're cheating with the video replay room, or they're just taking advantage of whatever shortcut they can. And do you blame them, really? I don't really blame anybody. But I came across an information about that letter that the Yankees do not want the letter to come out at all. Let me say hi to the chat room. Hi, everybody. Are we here? Donkey Okie, nice to see you. Bobby Kleinow's here. Good morning, Big Al on the prowl. Okay, George, you didn't get in the postseason league. And for those of you who didn't get in the postseason league, that's unfortunate because it's fun. And next year, you'll be invited back. So, say la vie to the season, that's true, but don't you think it was fun? Don't you think like we had, let me stop sharing my screen here and I'm still learning this, okay? We had fun this year, I think. Well, I had fun. So let's talk about this letter real quick that Rob Manfred wrote and sent to the Yankees, right? And so in this lawsuit that the fantasy baseball community, whatever you want to call the gamblers, all the people that play fantasy that did a class action lawsuit, a couple of them tried to go through, basically saying that the Houston Astros lied to us and that MLB knew about it and they didn't do anything about it. So that got dismissed. But a part of that lawsuit was this piece of evidence where it shows that the Yankees, see, this Levine character, this president of Yankees, Levine, I forget his first name, but his name is Levine, and he is going to actually be representing the Yankees in court. He used to be a lawyer, so he feels like he's very qualified for this. But let me find this notes that I put on this particular situation. They do not want this letter to come out, and they say that it's more about the way that the public will view it and not actually what the truth is. So they're worried about the way that they can twist this up to make the Yankees look bad and to connect them to the Astros begging and stuff like that. He's like, this is a different season. It's a different tactic. It's like, okay, that's fine. But why don't they want this letter out so bad? I don't think that they're just like some of these excuses just don't mesh. Levine, it's Randy Levine is his name. He's the president of the Yankees. He used to work for right under Rudy Giuliani as a deputy mayor. So the plaintiffs allege that although the Yankees are not party to the case, that the letter contained proof that the Yankees had engaged in a more serious sign stealing scheme than what the league announced in 2017. And there's no doubt about that. There's just no doubt about it. So the Yankees say that it would encourage meritless lawsuits, and it would also be damaging to the Yankees name, right? It basically, um, they say that it would be over distortion of the facts rather than the actual facts, that the reputation of the Yankees, would be on the line. So the conduct in the letter comes from 2015 and 2016 seasons when the league investigated both the Red Sox and the Yankees, and they punished both of them. But the Yankees' punishment was like that they had to donate to a charity of Rob Manfred's choice. No shit, you cannot make this up. That is the punishment. They have to donate a certain amount of money to charity of Rob Manfred's choice, not the Yankees' choice or anybody like that, okay? But regardless, the response from this isn't even, this thing has stretched out this entire time. That's nothing. Like, it seems like forever ago. We were talking about this before the season started. And of course, the season didn't start till late. And this was right when we were starting the actual season. But regardless, it says the response isn't even due until October, and oral arguments wouldn't even be happening until January of next season or next year. Even though they're saying that they're expediting the case, and that's just, it's crazy nonsense that this is still going on. The thing is that why don't you just, like Rob Manfred, why don't you just get it over with? Just throw it all out there. Just say everybody was cheating. The rules were not clear back then. They were not clear. Like, the fact that this was happening since they put the video replay room in became a thing, since they started doing video replay, and that was in like 2013 or 2011 or something. They started doing this, and Rob Manfred would do well for baseball if he would quit trying to like sweep things under the rug and just be like, look, everybody screwed up. The rules were not clear. We have fixed that now and actually fix it, but they haven't fixed it. They have not fixed the rules that are like completely cloudy. So we're going to enter the next season like with ways or reasons and ways for people to cheat. My dad used to be like, don't roll your window down and leave your wallet on the seat, because that will tempt an honest person to reach in and grab the wallet. Or don't leave cash out sitting on the seat with the window down and your door unlocked. Like, even honest people would consider it for a second. And I just think that the way to avoid it is to actually say, you can have these cameras in center field, but they cannot zoom in a certain amount, or you cannot put this guy in a video replay room by himself the entire game. To me, it's just such an easy fix for this. Get like a guy that doesn't work for either team to sit in a video replay room that's really actually part of the play-by-play room or on the other side of the glass, where everybody is kind of like, can be watching what you're doing, like monitor whatever's going on. Why? It's crazy talk. Okay. So anyway, back to fantasy and how it was a lot of fun. The Cardinals actually only played 58 games, which they said that they would they would have I think they were scheduled to have a doubleheader today against Detroit Tigers if they needed to, and if these two games would determine a playoff team for any team, regardless of if it was like the Cardinals or anybody else. So the fact that the Cardinals are in, the playoffs, and they don't necessarily need to make up those two games. But my friend Trevor Bauer points out this morning or last night that the Cincinnati Reds finished 31 and 29. That's third place in the division and the number 7 playoff seeds. Okay. Well, they said that they would not play, to determine the difference between the 5th, 6th, and 7th or 8th seeds in the playoff. So, but still, for the Reds, that it would have changed things for the Reds, because then it would have made them come in a different spot in their division. And the same goes for, I think, the Cubs, that if this St. Louis Cardinals team lost both games, then they definitely wouldn't have a better record than another team in their division. And regardless of whether it's the first or the last place team, what if you're fighting to stay out of last place, and it affects that? What if I don't know, and it doesn't affect the playoffs per se. It doesn't affect who they would play in the first round of the playoffs, I don't think. I'm not even sure if it would, but I do know that it would make a difference for where these teams finish and where they show up in the history books. I mean, so Trevor Bauer wants to play these games. He thinks that it's important because if they lost both of these games to Detroit, then the Reds would finish better. So what do you guys think of this? What do you guys think of the fact that they're not playing these games? NASCAR's okay. NASCAR. This was the issue. This is how we fixed it. Move on. It's not that hard. Yankees did cheat too. I agree. And I totally agree with this. Just throw it out there. When you make a mistake, the best thing you could do is just be like, I was wrong. And okay, but the thing is that Rob Manfred is shady. The Yankees are acting in a shady way because they don't want to hurt the Yankees' reputation. And the Red Sox don't want to hurt their reputation. And so, baseball really proved this year, an unfortunate thing that baseball really did prove that they don't give a shit about the players and they don't give a shit about the fans. They just don't. The MLB is it's basically just a group of owners. That's what MLB is. And MLB as an entity has Rob Manfred representing them. And the Players Association is supposed to represent the players. But it's almost like having it's like a union. It's the union. And it doesn't seem like they're always really making this. I'm not a lawyer. I just feel like, I don't know if it's better in basketball where they actually share profits with the ownership from the beginning, but it's so obvious where baseball has its priorities, and it does not consider the players an important part of the success of the MLB. They feel like they're just a dime a dozen, that players can come and go and fans will still come and watch baseball regardless of how they treat their players. I do not think that, the Angels, okay? The Angels fired Billy Epler. They fired their manager, and they're talking about who are the Angels going to replace him with, and they were talking about Dombrowski being the guy in line to get it, and the fact that Dombrowski would be the first manager that this guy Artie Moreno actually hired that had experience. All of the managers before him none of the managers so far since 2003 that he bought the team has he ever hired a manager with any experience at all. And he has a certain way about him, and he's extremely, they say that he's really testy to work for, that he really likes to have the final word, and the Angels basically started furloughing players more aggressively and earlier than any other team in baseball. And you did see some teams step up, like the Nationals figured out that if they offered to pay the minor league players, that Washington would actually have to step up and pay, or else they look like just assholes, because the whole season for the prospect would have been like a couple $1 million total. And for them to literally put baseball off because they think that they have the upper hand is wrong. The players were not, the players finally figured out that they already knew what MLB, what it was going to come down to. They already knew that baseball was going to play the minimum number of games that they could get away with and still have playoffs. So now they got their playoffs. We'll see what happens. Anyway, back to what we were saying. The whole thing, I could talk about that all day long with this, but I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just saying, I think we learned a lot of things this year. I think we should stick with all these teams in the playoffs. Think about all of the excitement that it brings to the fans, who hopefully they'll figure out just at least a little bit that the fans are important, that it matters to fans to see that their team, remember when Jeter came around and bought the Marlins and they just had a fire sale? And I think that fire sale was really based on the death of Jose Fernandez, because they knew that once they lost Jose Fernandez, this team did not have its core players. They got rid of Stanton, and the fans were not pleased. They had paid for the Marlins ballpark. The taxpayers funded that ballpark, and they promised and promised to bring a team to that ballpark for those fans, and they just kept. They would remember when they traded for Jose Reyes, and they just had they went kind of all out one year, and then the next year they just fire sailed at everybody, and that was they had Ozzie Guillen, remember that for a minute, and so anyway, the fans for Miami deserve to have a team that is going to at least potentially get to the postseason, and so we have all these teams ready to go. Entering yesterday, none of these wild card series matchups were settled entering yesterday. So the final two National League postseason spots up for grabs, and many other teams were still jockeying for seeding. So the 4 NLC series will get underway on Wednesday, and there will be 8 total playoff games on the same day for the first time in history. And on Tuesday, does it start? Yeah, it starts tomorrow. The AL will be on Tuesday. The Blue Jays at the Rays will happen. Not that it matters. There's no fans. Crazy that there's no fans. It'll be Tuesday at 5 o'clock on TBS, and it will be Blake Snell against Toronto to be announced. One would have to assume that you're putting Ryu out here for this game, right? I mean, they do have Taijuan Walker now, but he's not going to go out there first. It has to be Ryu. All right, Blake Snell, Charlie Morton, and Tyler Glasnow. Tampa Bay is solid Tampa Bay could have won the World Series last year. I believe that. If Houston probably cheated them out of a World Series play, because Tampa Bay, I remember exactly where we were last year, watching the playoffs, watching Tampa Bay, and their pitching is solid. And really, they have Ji-Man Choi, like he was totally underrated last year in the playoff. He's underrated because he's not that great for fantasy, but the people love him. He's great for the clubhouse. Everybody always laughs around him. They're always fired up around him. Ji-Man Choi is like a huge boost to morale. And I don't know. I mean, it doesn't show up in the stats, but Charlie Morton actually, I knew that I had a good chance of Charlie Morton pitching 5 innings because he was working his way back from injury, which he's been injured all year. So he enters the postseason fresh and actually finally worked up to 5 innings. And like the 2 starts before that, he was 3 innings, 4 innings. Now he's at 5 innings. He enters the postseason just in prime, fresh form. Okay, that's what I say. The Rays, they finished the American League, and they had the best record in all of the American League. They claimed their first AL East title since 2010, and they get to face the Blue Jays. The Rays won 6 of 10 from the Blue Jays this season, and 2 of those victories were extra inning walk-offs, and Toronto actually outscored Tampa Bay in those 48-44. So, but if you look at the run differential, there is a serious argument to be made for the Dodgers. The Dodgers have the best run differential in baseball. I must tell you what it is. It's crazy. So their differential is plus 136, okay? The Dodgers scored 136 runs. Wait, no. This is the difference between runs scored and runs against. 349 to 213. So only 213 runs scored against them, and they scored 349 times. That's a difference of 136, and that crushes every other team in baseball by almost over 2 times, except for San Diego, who comes in second to the Dodgers with a plus 84 for run differential. It's those 2 teams, and then the next team is Atlanta with plus 60. No joke about this. San Francisco is plus 2. St. Louis Cardinals are plus 11. The Cubs 25. That's like, they're just not that good. The run differentials this year there's a big glaring difference between the Dodgers and every other team. That's all. So the Rays, they have good depth, good quality of pitching, but starting pitching, they have good starting pitching. But I think they have, where's their holes? Let's say, Where are the Rays holes? I don't even know. So you guys tell me. I know that Toronto, I don't know. They don't seem like Toronto just doesn't feel like they're that great at hitting, and they have a lot of youngsters on their team. So I'm happy that they're making it to the postseason, but I don't foresee them getting past the Tampa Bay Rays for real. That's definitely so. In this postseason league, I think that I'm going to like to target some Tampa Bay Rays for sure. I definitely think that's going to be the case. So, Shaman, if you're here, it's your turn in the draft. So get on it. White Sox at Oakland. Tuesday at 3 o'clock. So all these games are starting at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Okay, we have 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 7 o'clock. All 4 games on Tuesday for the American League. Giolito is going up against, we don't know. Oakland has not announced yet who their starting pitcher is going to be. So I would have to say, who? Luzardo, Bassett. Probably Chris Bassett, right? Luzardo will come second. Shamanaya, there's 3 good starters there. And then the White Sox, they have Dallas Keuchel, who's had an excellent season. And I think Giolito, Keuchel, and then who? Dane Dunning, and Reynaldo Lopez, they have 2. I just don't think it's very deep, but Giolito and Keuchel should do okay. Chris Bassett's going to be good, but they don't have Matt Chapman. I don't know. I think they replaced Matt Chapman with Jake Lamb, and I don't know if that's going to work out great for them either. So I'm going to take the White Sox to win the first round. Okay, then you have Houston at the Twins. These 2 pitchers are definite. It's Zach Greinke, who has a 4.03 ERA this season, which is not good at all. I mean, he just hasn't pitched great, and probably because he doesn't get any run support anymore. Kenta Maeda is going for Minnesota. He's 6-1 with a 2.70 ERA. He's pitched really good. Jose Barrios is on this team. Michael Pineda's pitched okay. And if Rich Hill is healthy, and Michael Pineda isn't suspended for some reason, these 2 have shown that they're decent pitchers, especially I think in the September they closed out the season really strong. I'm rooting for anybody but the Astros. I think that McCullers is totally unreliable, and I would never think that he's going to do anything. He's unreliable. I mean, I see good in him, and I totally could be wrong because I didn't like Tyler Glasnow either going into the season, and look what he's doing. Tyler Glasnow has been excellent, for real. Garrett Cole is gone. Verlander's out. Okay, we're going to move on because I'm not a fan of the Astros, and I think they shouldn't. I don't think they'll get far. Then you have the Yankees at the Indians. This is going to be a great matchup. I am totally rooting against the Yankees, of course. This is not even a question for me. You got Shane Bieber going up against Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole in his first year as a Yankee is 7-3 with a 2.84 ERA, which is not bad. In a normal season, you'd be like, that's great. That's fine enough. And then you see Shane Bieber's ERA at 1.63 and he's 8-1. And so the Indians are hitting decent right now. I think that they went through a little bit of a slump for a while, but they're hitting enough to come back yesterday and finish out the season on a positive. And Plesac has been excellent. Carlos Carrasco has been great. Love seeing him come back. And the Yankees they have Garrett Cole, Tanaka, and Happ, 2 mediocre pitchers and a good pitcher. We'll see what happens. National League, okay, we have a game at Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. You have a game at noon on Eastern. Noon, 2, 5, and 10. I will start with the noon game. Reds at Braves. I don't like the fact that the Reds have to face the Braves in this first round. I would much rather have the Reds face anybody, probably, but mostly the Brewers. I would love to have the Indians or the Reds face the Brewers, but I love the momentum that they're going in here. They have Luis Castillo and Bauer. They have Sonny Gray. They have decent bullpen. Their hitters are finally turning it on. Like Moustakas is finally hitting on the season. I have an itch in my throat, but I promise I won't cough too loud in the microphone. And maybe Lenny will come save me like I did. I saved a praying mantis, but I think he's gonna die. That's too bad for me. Let's talk about the best. Let's skip all this crap about the postseason. I don't even want to do it. We'll do it later if we have time. But guess who played the most games last year? Let's do something with the chat room. Not last year, it's this year. Okay, you made your pick, Yankee hater. Polanco sucks. Let me see who you picked. Oh, Kershaw's gone. I really was targeting Kershaw, but okay. That would maybe be a little crazy. Dan is up now, and Dan likes to sleep in. Well, he's also on the West Coast, so it's not, no knock on Dan, just Kyle Hendricks. That's an interesting choice. Yes, the pitchers are going. And Kyle Hendricks it reminds me of a few years back when the Cubs were in the World Series, and I think they won that year. It was the year that they won the World Series, and they hadn't been there, they hadn't won in so many years. But Kyle Hendricks, I remember Joe Madden, he has like this, there's a saying of Joe Madden that says like, please don't suck or something like that. And I really felt like Joe Madden sucked because he did not have any faith in Kyle Hendricks. And Kyle Hendricks was in there pitching, and it was like the third or fourth inning maybe, and he kept pulling him out of the game, off the mound and replacing him, and he was not doing anything wrong. Like, he had everything under control, and I just don't understand why Joe Madden just would not leave Kyle Hendricks in there to pitch. And, I think he's been easily overlooked in fantasy because he has a slow fastball. Like, he doesn't do anything crazy, exciting. He doesn't throw super hard. That's what probably keeps him healthy. But Kyle Hendricks is a good, solid pick. The Cubbies, we'll see if they can hit. I think the hitting is the biggest question for the Cubbies. But hey, man, Theo says it's possible. And I was reading an article yesterday that says the Cubbies are, their season's about to end. It was some way they put it, but they said, but Theo thinks that they could win another World Series, so we'll see what happens. But Jose Abreu is still sitting out there, and Manny Machado is still there. I think Manny Machado is having an excellent bowl. I think Bryce Harper was decent, not as good as Manny Machado, but who do you think? There's only one hitter in baseball that appeared in all 60 games. Try not to suck. Yes, Douglas. Yes, I know. It's 6:00 in the morning for Dan right now, and that is very true. But yes, it was Try Not to Suck, and I liked it. I felt like he needed it used on him. So there's one player, one hitter. He appeared in all 60 games last year. Don't cheat. Put some guesses in the chat room. Actually, Merrifield's a good guess, but that is not him. And I think that's what George said yesterday. Whit Merrifield played in 59 games, though. And you've got, the thing about this is that what about the Cardinals? They only played 58 games. So technically, I think Josh Donaldson or Paul, who the hell? It's whoever, Goldschmidt or Donaldson. I like to get them confused. Let me look this up. I got to go to Fangraphs because my list only goes to 58 games. And actually, there was 30 players. You guys tell me. There's actually 30 players that played in 58 out of 60 games. And there was 15 players that were in 59 out of 60 games, and one that appeared in all 60. But below that, which would be 57, no, it would be 58 games. And so you have on here, it must be on this list, 58. That would technically be whoever's on the St. Louis Cardinals, Goldschmidt or Donaldson. I literally can't. I don't know which guy it is right now. I don't know why I get those two mixed up, but I do. It's constant. So The most at bats is Whit Merrifield, though. Whit Merrifield has the most at bats of any player, even though he only played in 59 out of 60 games. And as far as plate appearances, because the plate appearances, Starling Marte is the guy that played in every game. He's 8th in at bats, but I believe that whatever it is, Starling Marte played in the most games. Most at bats is Whit Merrifield. He had 244 at bats and 261 plate appearances. But you see, he doesn't walk very much. So with this one, we have Adalberto Mondesi, who came in with the most stolen bases, 24 stolen bases. One player, 24 stolen bases. And the next guy down on the list is 15 stolen bases. That's Trevor Story. And Jonathan Villar both stole 15 bases. And Trey Turner actually turned out to be okay. He wasn't stealing bases. We were afraid he wasn't going to steal any bases, but he ended up with 12. And that ties with Dylan Moore, Manny Margot. If you could imagine that, he got enough time he got enough at bats to steal that many bases. Whit Merrifield is right up there too with 12. And then you have Trevor Story, Jonathan Villar at 15, and then Mondesi at 24. That's huge difference. Guess who had the most home runs? I like this. Playing guess. Okay. Marte appeared in 61. Is that possible? Because there's only 60 games. And Goldschmidt, it is. It's Goldschmidt. He did play in every game for the Cardinals. So I got these stats last night, so maybe. And yes, it is Luke Voit. Luke Voit, home runs, 22, leading the pack. The next guy down is Abreu, and Abreu just pops up everywhere. Abreu pops up at the top of the list for RBIs. He shows up at the top of the list for games played. He's 59 out of 60. Plate appearances, at bats, hits. He's crazy. I think he has the most hits in baseball. There's just a huge argument for Abreu to win MVP, and that's just talking about this year's stats. Like I mean, I'm a big fan of who he is as a player, and what he does for his team is you can't really measure it in numbers. But his batting average was 321 on the season. I think he has the best batting average. He's crazy. He's got like everything the best. And so if he doesn't get MVP for the American League, I don't know who could get it. I don't know. Malpal is Georgia's MVP, and I think that I will give a shout out to Kevin Hastings, who is Aloha Fantasy Baseball, that I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not in the TG FBI league, but I usually do play in it. This year, I believe that Kevin Hastings came in first place in the TG FBI, which I find very exciting. And so we will shout out to Kevin and tell him congratulations on picking the best team. And he did pick the best team. I would love to find out if the main event ever happened or how he finished in that, if it did happen. I know that it was like put on hold, and then I'm not sure that everybody was able to fly to Vegas to do the draft. It was canceled at the very last minute, but he could have won that for sure if he would have had. I mean, obviously he would have had the same technique. And anyway, that's pretty exciting. So who's the biggest stars? Who is the most profitable? I kind of put a list together just kind of haphazardly. I felt like for me, one of the biggest surprises was Trent Grisham in San Diego. And I remember arguing with Malpal about Trent Grisham and saying that Trent Grisham wasn't even going to get playing time because Franchi Cordero was going to somehow interrupt this. And that was just ridiculous idea on my part. And Grisham has been very good. I looked up the dollar values for these players. You can look up the dollar value at Fangraphs. But I really like to look at, too, the offense, because you can sort by offense, defense, and WAR. You can also see the dollar value. These are all relative because, like, whatever league you're in, the dollar values are going to be different. But I like to look at offense since we don't use defense in fantasy at all. And I will say that the highest ranked offensive player is Freddie Freeman, who Lenny just drafted in the postseason league. Freddie Freeman came in, I think, the highest in offense. And then right behind him was actually Trevor Story and then Juan Soto, if you can imagine. Conforto is up there, Tim Anderson. But for me, the most profitable player for me, I think that when you do profitable, it's not just the amount of dollars that they earn, but how much did you spend on them? And I think I spent like $1 or $2 on Brandon Lau. And Brandon Lau has been a godsend all season. He was really good last year, but he ended up, so he was good in the first half and then he didn't play pretty much the whole second half because he was hurt. But it was like, okay, take a chance on Brandon Lau because he showed great hitting skill. Not really great hitting skills, to be honest with you. He struck out like 30% of the time at least. And so it was risky to even put him on your team. But I really am for the idea that if you spend a couple dollars on a player, of course, you want to get the player that has the best chance of hitting well or doing well. I figured, why not try Brandon Lau? He was excellent this year. The other, something about the Stratomatic that I see in this about Brandon Lau. I don't know why it's talking about Stratomatic. Blake Snell rebounded from an off year in 2019. He was a question mark going into the season. He was having cortisone shots like before the season even started. It was like, no way in hell am I going to believe in Blake Snell. So to those of you who did draft Blake Snell, I still don't, he wasn't as good as Tyler Glasnow. So, I mean, I was wrong there too. They have Kiermaier in their outfield for the Rays. He's a very good center fielder. Don't forget about that. And they do have like Brandon Lau. I can't remember if he. Anyway, they have versatile hitters. Basically, versatile hitters. Brandon Lau, excellent. Good pick for next year, I think. He's probably going to be way more expensive than the $1 or $2 that we paid for him this year. But he bats second, and I'm going to target him in this playoff league, so he'll probably be drafted before it gets to be my turn. That's just part of the fantasy world that we live in. What about, okay, so for surprises, and let me go back to my charts, which I can't find. Of course I can't find it. Jason Stark puts out all the time at The Athletic. He always puts out these useless facts, and I find them very interesting. Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm saying the right person. There's a couple of writers there that I follow at The Athletic. I follow them, and I just want to make sure that I am saying the right person. Another thing that I found that was very interesting is that this recent statistic was patented. Okay, they patented this statistic called quality of pitch, and Eno Saris does an article every week at The Athletic called the Command and Stuff Report. And this, on Twitter, he was sent a private message about this patented stat saying that you cannot just use our stat, which is called quality of pitch or quality of pitch. Okay. I'm on the wrong page. That's the problem. I'm on the wrong page. We'll talk. Okay. The quality of pitch. It's at QOP Baseball. They put out a tweet that said that they had received a patent on this method of combining measurement of movement, location, and velocity to quantify pitches in baseball. This now certifies QOP as the metric for calculating pitch quality. Now they're using an MLB logo, okay, and that's fine. This tweet is public; it's not hidden or anything. But then, just right after that, Enoceris gets a private direct message saying that this is patented, and you can't just go using the name Quality of Pitch because it's patented name, and you know, obviously Enoceris's Quality of Pitch might not be the same as this other Quality of Pitch, but they won't answer questions about. Actually, it was Ethan Moore that got the direct message, and Ethan Moore is an analyst that does. He's a freelance analyst for The Athletic. Okay, now the thing about it is, like, you can't if you okay WAR, the wins above replacement. The reason that is what it is because they basically in the sabermetric community, in the fantasy community, the numbers game, Fangraphs, Baseball Prospectus, and all of these different entities that use these formulas and try to come up with better ways to value players. They would have never became a thing unless they were put out there for free. So these numbers people, they like this kind of stuff anyway, so they're throwing out these numbers, and everybody's working open source with all of these formulas to try to come up with the best way to project players. And so the thing is like when it first started to become a thing, everybody was coming up with their own statistic. Everybody was like coming up with their own way to formula, and it was pretty out of control. But regardless of that, the way that we find these good value systems, the way that we find them is because they put them out there. And so WAR, the thing WAR, there's actually a couple different ways to formulate WAR, and that's part of a problem. But WAR would have never been a thing if it wasn't for the fact that he actually put it out there and people worked with it or whatever, that people were able to use it and to Fangraphs. Like if Derek Carty came out with the bat, okay, that's a way to value players. And Ariel Cohen, who just beat me in Tout War, so congrats to you. But he came out with one thing called ATC, and that's another way that you can value players. And this is all on Fangraphs. But once you get your formula to Fangraphs, that's when it can start to become a thing. The fact that MLB they won't admit whether they're working with this particular patent, but we all know that if somebody used an MLB logo of any kind with their product, and they're basically representing MLB, the MLB attack dogs would be on them in a second saying you can't use our logo with your idea or whatever. So in my opinion, that makes it very clear that they are working with MLB, and MLB is now patenting formulas, which is bothersome since MLB is just I don't know. They're the Cleveland Indians, Chief Wahoo, the mascot, Chief Wahoo, who I love, and obviously they can't sell Chief Wahoo shirts or hats, or it's not going to show up on any of the stuff at the games. So you won't find that stuff for sale at the games, right? But you can go on Amazon, you can go on MLB.com, you can buy Chief Wahoo stuff because it's the MLB's half-ass attempt at acting like they really care about any kind of social justice or any stuff like that, because they just don't. And this is how I know. They will not give up the rights to Chief Wahoo. So they're going to continue to keep this, this lock on this little Indian mascot. They're going to continue to make sure that nobody else gets to make any money if they're not making money. And they continue to make stuff and sell stuff under MLB, labeled stuff. So they're not selling it at the games, okay? So that's fine. But if you really thought that it was offensive to people, if you really thought that a group of people were offended by this logo or mascot, then why won't you give up the patent on it or the copyright or whatever it is that they own, and they won't give it up? So to me, it's just It's like the NBA saying, "Oh, we're gonna go on strike until we find out that we're not going to get paid, and then we're not going to go on strike." But then it's you don't care that much then, apparently. So I wish people would just, if they say they care, they should actually show that they care instead of just talking and throwing money at something that you have no idea what you're throwing money at. Moving on. All right, so the Red Sox fired their manager yesterday, Roenke, who was not really a manager. He was a manager, but he's took over for Alex Cora after he got fired. And the Red Sox had a crazy season. We all know they stunk, okay? But here's some other things that I took notes about what the Red Sox happened. Okay, they traded Mookie Betts. We know that. They Tommy John surgery for Chris Sale. Eduardo Rodriguez got the COVID, and then there was some side effect from COVID that kept him out the entire season. So I hope he's doing okay. And that's unfortunate for the Red Sox because he showed that he could be a decent pitcher last year, and they could have really used him. 47 players appeared in a game for the Red Sox. 47 different players in 60 games. That includes 28 who made their Boston Red Sox debut, okay, and then 6 major league debuts. So 6 prospects, 28 brand new players, and 47 players in 60 games. Then yesterday they beat the Atlanta Braves 9-1. Nice way to finish out the season, but they did finish 24-36. They were last in the American League East. They had the 4th worst record in baseball, and that means that they get the number 4 pick in next year's draft. And so that's the highest slot that they've had since 1967 when they had the number 3 selection. So there's something to look forward to. But the Red Sox, they decided to tell Roenke about the fact that they were going to let him go because they felt like that he deserved to be able to say goodbye to the staff and the players whenever he wanted. So basically he knew he was going to get fired, and he came out and he managed the team yesterday. So happy for him. Okay, things, they are what they are. We'll see what happens with him next year, but again, he's not the only one that got fired. Epler got fired, and I'm sure I don't even know if any other managers got fired, but I would think that there's some replacing going on, like maybe for the Mets, or definitely for the Mets. Sandy Alderson is somehow actually going to be Van Wagenen's boss again somehow, I think, or something. There's something crazy about Sandy Alderson coming back to the Mets. Here comes Leonard. I know Arnie's coming on next, I think. Okay, well, yeah, I set him up a show, and I'll be done by 10 o'clock for Arnie. So, okay, Arnie, you hear me? I'll be done. There's the Indians. Chief Wahoo. Love it. Okay? Love it. I love that guy. I don't see a problem with him. I don't think that very many people are offended by him, but maybe I'm ignorant to that. I probably am. So the Marlins, okay, I want to get some of these facts out that Jason Stark, I believe Jason Stark writes it. It's like the most useless facts, but they're really fun. The Marlins, 2 weeks ago, they lost a game 29-9, okay? And then they lost 15-0 to Washington. How many teams ever lost 2 games in September by 15 runs or more and then made it to the postseason? That would be nobody. And then 2 other teams since 1900 have lost 2 games by 15 or more runs in September. They didn't make the playoffs. Only 2 teams ever. But obviously the Miami Marlins are different because they were making the playoffs. They also lost an 11-0 game and an 11-1 game in September. They still made the playoffs. So how many teams have ever lost 4 games by double digits in September and then lived to play a postseason game? The New York Yankees in 2000 actually lost 6 games by at least 10 runs in September and won the World Series. That's crazy, right? The Yankees lost 6 games by at least 10 runs in September, and then they won the World Series. So the Marlins do have a chance because make it to the playoffs, you still have a chance, right? The Blue Jays have lost 12-1, 13-2, 20-6, and 18-1 this month. So that puts him right up there with the Crazy Talk Marlins. They didn't finish the season strong. Rafael Marchand, he won't turn 40. And okay, so let's talk about Eric Kratz. He was the New York Yankees' first 40-year-old catcher since 1906. He also pitched twice this past week, and only one other position player in his 40s has even pitched once in the 21st century. That was Ichiro Suzuki in his Marlins days, okay? And that was on the final day of the 2015 season. So Eric Kratz pitched twice this year. Also, Todd Frazier pitched for the first time in his career this year. There have been just 2 relief pitchers in the last 25 years who have finished a game for the Yankees after turning 40. And you know who the other one is. It's Eric Kratz and Mariano Rivera. And that's pretty cool. And then you have Rafael Marchand, who is a catcher and won't turn 40 until 2039. Okay. He had 846 plate appearances in the minor leagues, and he never hit a single home run until he came up to the major leagues and hit a home run. And that's that. And then I wish I had more of those stats, but I don't have any time anyways to tell you about them. So thanks for hanging out. Enjoy the week. We'll be watching baseball. We got to get this draft done, you guys, because it starts tomorrow at noon, I'm pretty sure. And right now is Dan the man's turn, and then Donkey Okie, and everybody pay attention today. Okay, that's it. Arnie, have a good show.